What is going on, everybody? Houndoomed here, coming at you today with a video that has been requested of me so many times. It is my guide to the Poke Radar. Now, what is the Poke Radar, I hear you ask? Well, the Poke Radar is a way of hunting down shiny Pokemon, or those super special, rare, sparkly ones that change colour. It is available in Generation 4 and in Generation 6, specifically in X and Y, and this guide will be all-encompassing, so it will be focusing on both Generation 4 games and Generation 6, but for the purposes of the recording, you will see Generation 6. But the actual mechanics of the actual radar are the same in both generations, so all of the rules apply. There are a couple of differences, but they will be highlighted throughout the video. So, let's get started. So, I'm here in Lumiose City, which is actually the point at which you get the Poke Radar in X and Y. After getting the National Dex from Sina and Dexio, you need to make your way over to the South Boulevard of Lumiose City, and if I turn the camera around, you need to go to the Pokemon Lab, which is located on the South Boulevard over here. After getting the National Dex, you need to make sure that you head on over to the 2F, and once you travel up the lift, or the elevator, whichever way you would like to talk about it, you need to head on over to this man here. Oh, hello, Repel. And he will actually give you the Poke Radar itself. Now, in Generation 4, you get the Poke Radar in a slightly easier way of once you complete the Sinnoh Dex and get given the National Dex by Professor Oak, the Poke Radar will be given to you by Professor Rowan. An important other thing to pick up while you're there, just before you head on over to do any Poke Radaring itself, is to head on over to the PAL Park, and there'll be an NPC there who will give you a Poke Radar app. And that will essentially help you track your Poke Radar chain. So you don't essentially have to keep track of the numbers. But also, before we start fully, we're going to want to make sure that we have some powerful Pokemon to take on the Pokemon that we're going to be fighting towards the chain. And we also want to make sure that we have plenty of repels. Now, repels are very important for this, as the Poke Radar will actually generate shaking patches of grass as you trigger it that contain Pokemon, and you need to make sure that you encounter the same Pokemon over and over and over and over again, killing them as you go. You can't run, you must make sure you kill them. Or you can catch them, but that takes longer. Killing is definitely best. You do that until you hit 40 encounters. Now that is the magic number at which the chain length is at its highest. For getting a shiny. It actually reaches 1 in 200. It can go no higher. So even if you continue chaining up to a 60, 80, 100 chain, it doesn't matter for the shiny chance. So you want to make sure that you have plenty of repels. Super repels are the most cost-effective option, but max repels are also very good, particularly in Generation 4 when you have to keep opening the item page all the time as the repels run out. Now the first thing that you're going to want to think about is where exactly do you want to chain, as there are all sorts of grassy areas throughout both Sinnoh and Kalos. The best places are, I'm going to show you some pictures on screen to help you out, but Route 222 in Sinnoh, which is west of Sunyshore City, that has a huge patch of grass that is amazing for learning to chain in. Also, in Generation 6, in Kalos specifically, you want to head on over to Camphria Town. Camphria Town is actually the base for both the good places to radar when you're just starting out, Route 5 and Route 7. Now again, it will depend on what you fancy chaining. I would say that if you are completely starting out afresh and you do want to go to the easier route, I would say that Route 5 is better. Despite the purple flowers, actually, I think that they are quite nice to chain in, but a lot of people aren't a fan. You obviously want to make sure that you fought all the trainers on the route. In Generation 6 specifically also, it's important to note that there are a couple of areas that people like to chain in and consider them to be easier. But I advise against them when you're first starting out, because of a couple of reasons. Those two areas are Azure Bay, mainly because of the ridiculous camera angle that you have to battle with there, and the Pokemon Village. Now the Pokemon Village has a huge patch of grass. However, it's so huge that you can't really concentrate on where you're going. It's nice when you're starting out to concentrate on a relatively small area so that you can make sure that you are getting the patches that you need. So, before doing anything else, you want to make sure that you shove that rappel on, doesn't matter which one it is. And also, it's a good idea to go onto your key items and make sure that you have the Poke Radar selected. It's also a good idea to have it as the only selection, because then it just means that when you press Y, it'll just trigger the radar. Now you look at all those patches and you think, huh, so many Shook, they're all different styles, how exactly do I know which ones to walk into? Well, it's a different story in both Generation 4 and in Generation 6. In Generation 6, as you saw, there were loads of different styles of shaking patch there. However, the best ones to go for are the most vigorously shaking patches. You must make sure that you're going into those because they are the easiest to spot, and also they make a very distinctive sound as well. They are the loudest, and you will definitely notice them if you're using headphones. Now, another thing that you may have noticed also is the fact that I used the roller skates then, and it broke the chain. The radar music stopped. You must make sure that you're always using the D-pad when you're using the Poke Radar. So, I'm going to step into one of these patches here. This one was actually shaking quite nicely, quite vigorously, quite loudly. So we're going to walk into here and see what Pokemon's inside. Oh, it's a Doduo. Hello. So we're going to hunt for this little thing. I'm going to lead off with my Florges. Now, a nice idea is to turn off move animations and lead with a Pokemon that isn't shiny, simply because it makes things a bit quicker. But it's not really necessary at all. So, the reason why you want to go into the vigorously shaking patches is if I can find an example here. Aha! Now, you saw all those nice vigorously shaking patches to the left, but to the right they were shaking quite gently. Now, the problem is that you might run into one of these. Now, these are called ninja or fake patches, depending on who you speak to, and they will instantly break your chain. That's why it's a good idea to go for ones that shake vigorously, because you won't get them confused with the pathetic patches that shake so gently that you barely even notice them. So it's important to be observant. Make sure you're looking at the patches exactly where they are so that you're not stepping into any accidentally. In Generation 4, the process is made a lot simpler because there are only two styles of shaking grass, which I'm going to show you on screen now. As you can see, there are glistening patches and kind of gently shaking patches. Now, the glistening ones are the only ones where you'll find the Poke Radar exclusive Pokemon, such as Wobbuffet in the lakes and Fluffy on Route 222. There are lots and lots of examples. Nidoran on Route 201. There's loads of them all around. You don't get such luck in Generation 6. They don't give you any fancy ones. But in Generation 4, you can go into whatever patches you like. None of them will break your chain. There are no ninja patches in Generation 4, but it's important to know obviously that if you do want one of those Poke Radar exclusives, you must go into the glistening patches. So I'm going to go ahead and start a new chain here. You do have to walk 50 steps rather before you can trigger the Poke Radar again. So I'm going to walk into this nice vigorous one. Is a Skiddo. This is always a nice Pokemon I always recommend going for straight away because it's got a fantastic shiny. It really, really does. So I'm just going to kill this one with Psychic, making sure that we don't run from it. And let's see if we can find a patch that we can walk straight into. Aha! So, I'm going to show you a quick little diagram here on screen of what patches you should walk into. Now, if you see, there is like grids around you. There's a 3x3 grid around you for one step, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger as you go further steps away. Now, you'll see on the screen that the ones that are highlighted in red, the 1-aways and the 2-aways, are a no-go. Don't ever walk into those patches of grass because they are very likely to break your chain. The ones that are 3-away, they're okay. They have quite a high chance to break your chain, a 20% chance to break your chain in fact. And the 4-aways are the magic ones. They're the ones that you want to be walking into. Now, when I say 4-away, I mean columns/rows, not steps. Because as you can see here, you could assume that 1, 2, 3, 4 is 4 steps away. But that's actually, if you saw according to the grid, that's actually 2 away. I've just essentially walked in a diagonal direction. So you saw when we were standing over here when we reset that there was a patch that was shaking down here. However, it is on an edge. Now, a lot of you may have heard all these scary stories about edge patches. Now, edge patches are quite dangerous because of the fact that you will see that it's 4 away. So we'll walk into it, we can be pretty sure this is going to contain a Skiddo. See, there it is. It's a Skiddo. It shook the exact same way as when we started the chain. It's 4 column/rows away. Perfect, right? Well, not so much. We'll see if it's lucky or unlucky as we kill this Skiddo. We'll just see what happens. Okay, so we got lucky this time. But essentially what happens is that the Poke Radar will try and spawn at least one patch in each section of that grid that I showed you. It will try and spawn one in the 1 away, one in the 2 away, one in the 3 away, one in the 4 away. In Generation 6 it sometimes likes to spawn an extra one randomly as well. However, if the Poke Radar tries to spawn a patch that is not there, for example in one of these 3, then the chain will instantly break. In Generation 4 it will happen before you enter the patch, and in Generation 6 it will happen after. So it's not exactly fun when you find, oh yeah, that's the Pokemon I wanted, and then, well, the chain broke. So try to avoid edges. Once you get a bit more confident with the Poke Radar, edges can be lifesavers, especially on really, really small routes, because of the fact that you have very few patches of grass to work with. But when you're first starting out and you're using these patches, such as Route 5, Route 7, etc., you don't need edges. They're unnecessary. So there's nothing particularly worth going for there. So if you can't find a patch that is worth going into, or if you're unsure, just keep resetting your radar. Just keep running up and down in a comfortable place until, aha, there we go, see? There was one right above us up here that was shaking quite vigorously. So we'll go into this, and it's a Skiddo! So as you can see, again, it was 4 column/rows away. We had to walk 1 over to the left and then 4 up to the up position, and that meant that we had a Skiddo. It's not always pitch perfect, especially in Generation 4. Chains will break on a perfect patch quite randomly sometimes, and it's quite infuriating, but you kind of have to persevere. One of the main things about the Poke Radar, again, it's actually gone to the same patch, is that you must try and stay patient. It's quite annoying when chains keep breaking and breaking and breaking, and you just feel like you're not getting anywhere. You have to persevere. Sometimes it may be just trying to go for a different Pokemon, trying to switch patch, particularly in Generation 6, you could try and feel your way around different patches. In Sinnoh, there are all sorts of different routes that have massive patches of grass. Route 22 is simply just the easiest. I find it's just because you will stand right in the middle of the patch and there will be a 4 away right around you. The 4 grid will not hit an edge at all, which is perfect. That one's a 3 away, so we'll try and ignore that. Now, some other things to note are you must try and find ways to make your chain. You must try and find ways to manage your chain. So, some key things to note are that if you try and restore your HP, or your power points, or you switch Pokemon around, they will not break your chain. There is a common misconception that if you try and do that, it will break your chain. I will show you right now, in fact. It does nothing. The way that you tell is, has the Poke Radar music stopped? If it stopped, your chain has broken, and you must start again. But in this case, as you can see, it doesn't matter if you go into the menu, use an item, it doesn't matter. Just keep going, and you will see that the chain continues. Another important thing to note, particularly with Generation 6, is the fact that if you run into a roaming Pokemon, Articuno, Zapdos and Moltres, they will not break your chain. In Generation 4, actually I'm not 100% sure if they do, but if you're using a Pokemon that is high enough level, then you won't run into them in the first place. But the birds do not break your chain. It is important to note that fact. In fact, actually, I'll tell you what, in Generation 4, yes, they do break your chain because you're running into a Pokemon that you've not repelled out. So essentially, if you're using a level 40 to repel out like level 2s, but then you run into a level 50 Roamer, the Roamer's broken your chain, so you must be careful. So, it is quite a simple process. Once you've learnt the ins and outs, you just keep going, keep going, keep going until you hit that magic 40 number. Once you reach that magic 40 number, all you do is continue to reset your radar. You keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, until you get that magic shiny patch. Now there's one other thing that I haven't mentioned, and that's in Generation 6 there is a phenomenon called fast music. Now I'm going to play you a short clip of that right now. So, you heard that was quite more upbeat. It definitely changes, and it happens sometimes after an encounter. Now, the thing to do when fast music occurs is to continue resetting your radar. Even if you run into a brilliant patch, just keep resetting your radar, because fast music occurs randomly, but what it will do is it will automatically zip you up to a 40 chain. In essence, anyway. It will essentially make the chances of finding a shiny patch increase to that 1 in 200 chance that I mentioned earlier. Once the music stops, however, you return back to your original chain length. So if you ever run into that, make sure to run around, reset your radar, and see how long it lasts for. See if you can get yourself lucky with a shiny patch. It doesn't always happen. It's happened to me about 3 times, getting a shiny on fast music. It's often known as troll music for that reason, because you want it to work, but it doesn't always happen. So you kind of have to just keep going with it, really. But one thing I will do right now is I will actually show you some of the shinies that I've caught through PokeRadar that you'll actually see on my YouTube channel. One on Route 5 here, just so that you can see an example of what the shiny patch looks like, and also one in Generation 4, just so you can see what the actual shiny patches look like, because it's important to know. In Generation 6 it does actually make a sound as well, but in Generation 4 you get no such luck, so you just have to look for it. So I'm going to show you those for you now. Oh! I haven't ever done... So there you have it. There is my guide to the PokeRadar. I really hope that you manage to find yourself some shinies, and once you get good at the PokeRadar and you feel like you're consistently finding shinies, consistently getting to 40 chains, try some of these challenges. Now, there are certain routes which are really, really quite difficult. In Kalos, routes to try are Route 3, Route 11 and Route 4. They increase in difficulty as I mentioned them. Route 4 is actually the hardest and one of the only routes that I have never gotten a shiny on, mainly because it's just so gross. And in Sinnoh, if you're feeling particularly devilish, go to Route 204 North and try and hunt for a Sunkern. You think, oh, Sunkern, that can't be too difficult. Yeah, go to the route and then let me know how you do, because it's not a great route at all. That's all for today though. Thank you so much for watching. Please comment if you have any questions. I'd love to hear what you think of the guide as well. Please feel free to drop a like as well if you like what you saw. Good luck and happy hunting.